Welcome everybody to this webinar. Parrots is a gateway to a new life, year and earth. That sure seems to be promising an awful lot. But basically, it's just how can we use our relationships with other animals to have a window into a way we might live differently with each other and with life on this planet. And so we're using parrots as the center, but you can be thinking of any other species you want during this time, because I believe that the same principles will hold true for most of the species that you would pick. Now, people often ask me, oh, by the way, I am LoraKim Joyner, and also here with us today is the other co-director of One Earth Conservation, Gail. She'll be helping facilitate as well. And I've been doing parrot conservation for about 35 years plus in the Americas. And people often ask me, why parrots? Why would you spend so much time in parrots? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about why parrots for me and parrots for other people. But you all also can put in the chat while I'm talking, and just talk to each other, is why are you here today? We're not going to open up the audio, but why parrots? Why did this catch your interest? And if you feel like sharing in the chat, just say your name and where you're from, and just go to chat on that. This is going to be interactive in that way throughout the presentation. Then we'll go back to open conversation towards the end. So why parrots? So why 35 years? Why are people paying attention to parrots? What's going on with that? Well, one reason why we can use parrots as a gateway to a new world, they really grab people's attention. This is a rainbow lorikeet from the Pacific area. Now, just imagine, birds are beautiful and parrots are just incredibly amazing. And so they really grab our attention. And so that's why parrots can be a tool to help us think about living with other animals, because they just grab our attention. Now, they grab our attention in other ways. So I've got this video of Snowball. Maybe you've heard about Snowball, the dancing cockatoo. YouTube is full of parrot videos. And I just want to show a little bit of it so we can see, why people are so attracted to parrots. Once with postgraduate students, veterinary students, and I said, what is it with parrots?
LoraKim, we can't hear you.
They want to be touched, they're highly sociable, they're really beautiful. Why did that all happen in one place?
LoraKim, we can't hear you.
It was really
You can't hear me.
What's going on with these animals? We're so attracted to them, and they grab so much. And I want to show you another video. This is of a wild bird that had been rescued.
LoraKim.
And this
LoraKim.
little girl had grown up with this bird. They're both about the same age. So I just want to show you their interactions, because it shows about the great company that parrots are all over the world, especially where they come from. People just want company. And so here, we can see this. Gail, you can't hear me right now?
Now I can, but when you were talking before, you had left the cockatoo video playing and the music was really loud. So we missed everything you said after you turned on that video until it ended.
Oh, okay. All righty. Well,
Okay.
What I was doing is I was telling a story about how when I was teaching in a veterinary school, one of the resident students in veterinary medicine, I was saying, why is it that parrots, they're beautiful, they sing, they dance, they do music, they want to be touched, they mimic language, They're highly social. Why did that all happen in one species? And the resident said, and it was in an academic setting, so it was kind of surprising to hear her use this language. She said, maybe God just gave us a gift. And that, and to the detriment of the parrots, because they're so attractive. And there's other ways that they are attractive, is that they're just good company. Many people can really relate to them. Again, I'm talking about why parrots grab people's attention. So this is a scarlet macaw that was rescued from the wild and grew up with this girl. They are the same age. And it just kind of shows up how much we desire the company and how much we often use parrots to fill that need. And I won't talk during this because there is volume in this.
Okay, otra vez vuelta.
Otra vez, recostate, pero volteando a ver, mami.
Qué bonita salió.
Ajá.
Hasta el gallo salió.
Ajá, ajá. Ahí está acostada.
Hasta el gallo salió.
So who doesn't want that in their household? I mean, it's an amazing relationship between that bird and the girl. And there's more stories about when the girl grew up, that, you know, how strong was their bond and how painful was the heartache when the two were separated. So, you know, again, why parrots? Why are they a gateway species? Well, it's because so much harm has been done to them. We enjoy them so much in the world over, them and other species of birds, is that they're often are housed and treated very inhumanely, treated as objects and commodities. And there's high death rates in the trade, and we're losing the birds in the wild. And so that's what our desire leads to, and what it leads to. And Gail, I borrowed this picture from your book. I hope that's okay. Is that they're all over the world. They're just everywhere. Either they evolved there or they have naturalized, they've escaped or been let go. And then of course they're everywhere as pets. So it makes them a really good species for all these reasons, to focus on them as a way, how could we all live differently with life? And another reason why to pay attention to parrots as a gateway species, as I alluded to earlier, they're the most endangered group of birds in the world, mostly due to the pet trade, but also other reasons. You know, habitat loss is right up there. This is a great green macaw. And actually this picture is in Nicaragua, but in Honduras, where I work, there may only be about 50 of them left. And so it's to great detriment to them. And there's been so much loss. Parrots and birds, they really pull that out of us about the loss, about where they are now. And here in North America, where I live outside of New York, we used to have a parakeet right here. They would go as far north as New York, and they're gone, been gone for over 100 years, 104 years about. And so this grabs our attention because we don't want that to keep happening. So we pay attention to parrots for all these multitude of reasons. And not only are parrots a symbol of the oppression in our world and the violence in our world, not only do they hurt, but also the forest and the habitats where we live. These are scarlet macaws, actually in South America. And they're carrying clay, but it's to show you that the big macaws can carry big objects. So they are seed dispersers. They're the farmers of the forest. And so without them, we don't have a healthy biodiverse forest. If we poach or trap out all the parrots from where they are, we're not going to have a healthy forest. And if we don't have a healthy forest, we also don't have healthy ecosystems for all the life on this planet. And this issue with parrots, it intersects with humans, not just through forest health and other species, but people are being hurt by the parrot trade. Gonzalo was murdered in this year, about a year ago. This is the yellow-eared macaw, and he was instrumental in saving this bird. But Colombia is really difficult right now for environmentalists and for people trying to protect areas for other animals. So he was murdered. Thank you, Gonzalo, for your work, and we are sorry for you and your family. And then in one of our project areas in Guatemala, Pedro has one of our conservation areas. It's his cattle ranch. It's with forest. And he heard that there were some poachers looking after this nest tree to rob the chicks. And he went up there to investigate, and they killed him. They murdered him. He died protecting parrots. And so all this grabs us and say, oh my gosh, there's so much going on with parrots, and so we use that in wondrous conservation to help us see the bigger picture in life, and not just a picture of suffering, but a picture of beauty and possibility. And so right now I'm in showing that what are the problems with parrots, and having studied them for 35 years as a wildlife veterinarian. And so you can see the first few lines in black: parasites and predation and malnutrition and Africanized bees. There's things that are hard on parrots in the wild. But what's in yellow is what's really hurting them. It's the poaching, trapping, and trade, which is really number one in most areas where I work. And then, of course, ecosystem loss and degradation. And both of those things are happening because it's people are doing it. And why are people doing it? And how is impacting the people so that they can actually conserve their birds is we have human security and human well-being as an issue. So underneath the parrot problem is a human problem. And I often say that wherever parrots are in trouble, so are the people. And we can say wherever the parrots are in trouble, so are the forests. And so it's all this interrelation that has to do with human well-being. And it's hard to take care of all of life. This is a picture of Honduras in one of our conservation projects, and they have to make hard decisions. We all have to make hard decisions. Who are we going to take care of, and how are we going to take care of all of us? And the question is, it's not a competition, because the baseline system of our society imprisons us all. It's hard on our animals, it's hard on us, it's hard on our children and our future. And we have tough decisions to find out how we can, all of us, break free from the system and live in the ways that we want to. So this is sort of the background of why parrots. And now we're going to talk about how. What are we going to do about this? How can we use parrots to not just remind us of the hard things, but give us the resilience and the hope and the new ways of thinking that will help us break free? So I want to just point out some of this work that's, they call it One Health, that, all of our well-being is tied in together. It's One Health, and how human well-being is tied into bird to avian well-being. And this is a quote from a social scientist. And they said that if care includes cognitive, which is thinking, affective, emotions, and behavioral components, action. In order to care, people have to be informed, they must feel, and they should act in ways that will express both their knowledge and their emotions. All that is to say is that parrots can help us learn, be informed. They can help us feel, and we can try to feel what they're feeling. And then we can act in ways with a meaningful and a purposeful life for the benefit of ourselves and others. And that just feels good. That's human well-being, meaningful, purposeful life. And parrots can help us get there. Now, when we're out working with parrots, there are so many other benefits to paying attention to animals. It's just a a group of young birders out there looking for parrots. And this is just pointing out that when you go out and be with other animals and really try to understand who they are, you're outdoors and you're often in areas where there's some trees and maybe a lot of animals. And this is good for us. And looking up is really good for us. It causes all kinds of cognitive integration of our neural pathways, and it causes greater satisfaction and happiness in life and greater health and less stress, less crime. So getting out there and walking, even when you don't want to go for a walk, you get the same health benefits. So there's one thing about, oh, this is great for me. I'm going to go out and pretend I'm a chickadee at the bird feeder, and it's going to be good for you. And they've done studies to show, there was a study that was done in Europe where they measured the biodiversity of birds, how many different species of birds were in the area. And they found that life satisfaction went up in Europe when there were more birds. And they controlled for the number of trees. So it was actually the number of birds, the different kinds of birds, that was increasing life satisfaction. And of course, we know with our parrots, they help us have more trees. And so more trees, we know, also adds to life satisfaction and our health. So it's good to be out there and be with the animals. And another way that paying attention to animals, I've already talked about it, that we know that knowledge, emotions, and meaningful behavior really helps human well-being. And it's the good life. And we can use parrots as a tool for that. We can learn about parrots, we can feel about them, and they can give us meaning. So this is a shot of, we're examining a wild scarlet macaw chick in Honduras. And, I'm a wildlife vet, so we were doing all that work. And I thought, why am I the only one who gets to listen to the heart of this bird? So I'm going to show you a video. It's the very first time we ever tried it, where I said, well, let's just let everybody listen to the heart of the bird. The chick seems to be okay. We're tracking the stress. And so we all took turns listening to the heart of the bird. And so I just want to show you this clip of when the first time we did this.
Tell me if you can't hear it. I'll move it. Sounds beautiful. It's like music to my ears. It is the prettiest thing. To me, it's the prettiest thing. It's beautiful. It's the prettiest thing. And then when you do surgery and you actually see the heart, you just go, oh my gosh.
So could you see the smiles of the people there and how happy they were? And the one person that you see that was listening to the heart, he said it was the most transcendent moment in his life, to be able to hear the heart of the national bird of Honduras and to have his heart beat in rhythm with the macaw. Of course, 4 times slower, but it was just a really, really strong connection with the parrot. And so we do this now whenever we can, when we're out in the wild and actually handling the chicks who do not seem to mind too much, is that, these birds gives us a really strong connection to life. They get us out of ourselves. So far, we've been talking about the benefits to us, and I'm going to keep talking about that because we talked about a new life and a new earth. So we also want to be thinking, well, what is going on with them? I know what's kind of going on for me. What's going on with them? And this is the idea of multi-species intelligence, is to ask, a simple way of saying it is, what are they thinking and needing? So it helps us get out of the wiring that many of us grew up in our societies, that they are objects, that they are just projections of what we think humans are, and of actually a historically bad science around this. And so we ask ourselves, what are they thinking and needing? And it helps us be present in this moment to them which liberates us from all these mind loops we have going about who we are and what they are. And so this is a practice that underscores, and we're going to end up with a video about this at the very end. So there's lots going on out there about parrots. We're learning more about them. There's a book, Thinking Like a Parrot, and it's more than just the angry birds. They do have emotions like ours, and just like ours, they're sort of hard to describe, but they do. And let me just do a really basic description of emotions, because what it helps us do when we think about what other species are feeling and needing, it connects us to life, because they respond very similar to the way that we do. And I don't know about you all, but it helps me feel not alone. So here's how I'm going to describe emotions. That there's the definition down there, that it's an internal subjective experience. Something happens inside of an individual, and it motivates them to move away from discomfort and harm. So it's a subjective experience. Maybe some we call feelings, emotions, but something is happening inside that individual that says, oh, I got to move away from discomfort and harm. It's a motivator. And again, in humans, we would call this emotion. So here they are running away from a bear. And then what these internal subjective experience does also motivates us to move towards satisfaction and benefit. So in this case, the bear, wants to eat and maybe likes to feel the way the water feels, and the humans want to come and watch this. And so our needs might be connection and engagement and just feeling alive by being with the bear. And so this idea of feelings is that subjective experience and needs, just really simple, moving away from harm and moving towards satisfaction and benefit. So in this way, we can see that all species do this. And plants, I don't know as much about plants and trees as some, but the science is saying that even one cell organisms have a subjective experience. So one cell might even have the exact same DNA of another cell, but they've had different life experiences. So where one cell animal might go left, depending on the salinity of the water, another will go right. They are making decisions. They are individuals. They're not rote about what they will exactly do every time. And this kind of response to the environment goes all the way back to our one cells. And so this idea of responding to needs and emotions connects us to the beauty of who we all are. And it helps us get us out of the loops where we just say, well, animals are like that, or these people are like that. And it helps frees us from this judgment and societal loops. So one thing to watch out when we do this multi-species intelligence connecting to other animals is to watch out for anthropocentrism. That is to say, it basically say that humans are the center of the universe. That's what that means. And it's to say they're nothing like us. We are the top of evolution and nobody else is like us. And this is an error that, if taken too far, is an error. I mean, some anthropocentrism is good. They are a lot like us, right? And we can use our bodies to feel and be part of them. But if we take it too far, then we're cut off our connection and we've cut off our science. So this is just a cartoon saying, oh, don't worry, they don't feel pain the way we do. When I was in veterinary school back in the 80s, there were 3 journal articles on how to deal with pain in animals other than humans. And so I was in an orthopedic rotation, and an animal had just come out of some type of orthopedic or bone surgery, and the dog was howling and coming out of the anesthesia. And I asked the resident, I said, wow, that sounds like the dog's really painful. Can we do anything about that? And the resident said, don't worry, they don't feel pain like we do. That's just a reaction to the anesthesia. So in veterinary school, I wasn't taught how to use pain medications. It wasn't taught. And of course, now it's a huge part of veterinary medicine. So we had biases. And we all, most societies, we grew up with that bias. Oh, they're nothing like us. And we have blinders on. And that's why we have to really work on seeing them for who they are and what they're feeling and needing. And then there's the other extreme is anthropomorphism, is to say they are exactly like us. Now, some anthropomorphism is good. They are a lot like us, but not exactly. And so I just have a video showing an example of that. I don't know if anybody's laughing, but and so what we're doing is saying they're exactly like us, and we treat them like they're us. And I don't know if any of you all know examples of that, perhaps in the chat if you wanted to do that. One of the ways that I know about this is like if we have a cat and they're maybe peeing outside of the litter box, that we say, oh, the cat's mad at us. And well, maybe they have a urinary tract infection, maybe it's territory. And so that's where we get into trouble when we say they're exactly like us. Well, you know, the bird bit me, the bird's a bad bird, right? So that's where we want to watch our reactions. And particularly with birds, I want to just speak about some of the biases that we need to let go. And it's helpful to let go of other people so we can help other people let go of it, so we can see the wonder of who they are. So this is to the left is a drawing of the brain of a bird. It's got all the different tissues, names, and you can see all that there. We used to think that birds weren't very smart. You've heard the word bird brain and dumb as a goose and all of this. And we used to think that, and part of that was because when the scientists did anatomy investigations, they said, well, they don't have much cerebrum, you know, they don't have the cognitive dense neural tissue that mammals have and that we have, so they don't think very well. Well, what they have is they have something called pallium. It's a different kind of neuronal tissue, but through convergent evolution, it does the same things that our tissue does. And it's basically the same. And as a matter of fact, in certain species, such as crows and parrots, it's more densely packed than ours is. And then in most primates. So for the size of their body and the size of their brain, they're actually in many ways smarter in many ways than we are. They put the age of children up to parrots and some crows up to 4 and 5 years. Some of them can outdo college students on some intelligent tests. So that was something we got wrong until this paper came out in 2005 that said, nope, they have a lot of cognitive tissue, and then began all the studies to actually look and go, oh, they are smart. They are doing all kinds of things out there that we didn't know. And it's not just birds. This idea of having the same kind of neural thinking tissue that we have, you know, we often heard the word reptile brain. Well, get rid of that. Don't say that. They have all the same kinds of tissues that we have in our brains, maybe different proportions and different levels, and it goes all the way back. And I'm saying it goes back to reptiles and to fish. So they have the same neural tissue to feel and to think in ways that we do. So in our work, we often use the phrase, what does the parrot say? And like I told you, it says, what are they feeling and needing? You know, just to have company and just to actually be paying attention to something other than our internal or human problems and loops. So this is a poster that we use, and we can just point to the various pictures and ask children usually, you know, what's going on for the parrot? What does the parrot feel and need? And they're really quite intuitive, thinking about, oh, I see. The parrot is, you know, maybe here, the parrot is playing. Oh, they kind of see that, right? And eating, so they feel hungry. These are chicks, so maybe I don't know, maybe they're scared, or maybe they're hungry too. Here are two macaws kind of fussing with each other. Are they angry? Are they irritated? Are they happy? Bird flying here. What are they feeling and needing? And then we show the bird in a cage. What are they feeling and needing? And so again, I stole this from your book, Gail, is a book that Gail just put out that helps put this in terms that children can see. is to ask, what would the parrots say? Parrots aren't just mimicking us. They have things to say. And so we have to really pay attention to that to know what that is. And for that matter, even dogs that grew up with us, and in some ways, we know what they say. They very much speak our language, so many of them. But they also have a different language. They're also saying different things than what we think they are. And so we ask these questions: what does the parrot say? What are the macaw's needs? What are your needs as the person watching the birds? Because you matter. And what does the whole world feel in need? We're not alone in having feelings and needs. And if we can open up to that honest embrace of reality, it opens up a whole world for us. And yes, some of it's hard. Some of it's hard. Because we're all living in societal structures of domination. And these words that you can see here are all words that describe the harm that comes to people and to other animals, because we have this domination that some could control resources more than others, and it causes such great harm. So by asking, what does the parrot feel and what does the parrot need, it helps link us that they're being hurt and can flourish in the same ways that we can by working with our society that allows extraction economies, which takes parrots out of the wild, hurts people because the resources are coming out of where they have been, or the climate change, loss of biodiversity. So the end result of doing this and paying attention to other animals, paying attention to parrots, is we're going for transformation. We're not a revolution, we're just saying transformation. An external transformation, which is societal. In other words, justice. We want to end the domination and live in better ways. And an internal transformation that helps us connect to nature and to other lives, so that we can take the steps to move towards a world where we can truly flourish. And so we need to change the way we act, and we need to change the way we think as well. And we can do this in small steps, and we can do it together, and we can live in a new way. And we can do this by paying attention to the beauty within and the beauty without, by asking, what are other beings feeling and needing? So in our Nurture Nature program, where we talk about using parrots as a gateway species, we work on these 5 natural intelligences. You can see them there: emotional, social, multi-species, ecological, and spiritual. And we all have these, and we can all grow them. And what they do, they help us connect to the intrinsic worth of life, ours, and the reality of existence, which is just opens up joy and connection and belonging. It also means we got to deal with the reality of hardship and suffering. The two come together. But there are practices that we can do to grow all of these. And one way, parrots as a gateway species, is, we've already talked about it. We can do all of these. And we have a book that'll be coming out next year, Birding for Life, where we really concentrate on multi-species intelligence, but as we pay attention to parrots, we can actually work on all of this together. So I want to end with not end, but transition towards the end with one story about how all this kind of fits together. And then a way you can pick your own species and do your own gateway species, or continue with parrots. And then I have a parrot meditation at the end that we'll end up with. So again, we're back in Honduras with the scarlet macaw, nest in pine trees, and here are their eggs and chicks. And it's where the indigenous mosquito people live. And they invited us to go there in 2010 to help save their parrots because they were getting poached. And you can see here, this is an indigenous tree climber. And why does he know how to climb trees? Because he was a poacher. They sold parrots because the international demand has a market for that. And you can see the entryway to that parrot nest has been opened artificially with a machete. So we went down there in 2010, and it was a time when they had a coup. and the villages were being burned and people were being assassinated because outside influences, the drug cartels, the corrupt, politically strong people wanted the land. And so it was a really hard time for them. And Tomas, one of the indigenous leaders there, he said, no, I'm going to risk my life, but I'm going to turn in the names of the people that are hurting my forest and taking our land and hurting our parrots. And so he turned in the names to the government, and the people took revenge on him and waited for him one morning down at the river and tried to kill him. And he was shot 4 times, nearly died. 5 months later, he's back in the area. The whole village had to flee because it was scary. They were out to kill everybody, or so the people thought. And so he's back with me 5 months later. We had to hire the military to go in with us. And he goes down to the river and he tells us the story, how he almost died. And he shows us the scars where some bullets still remain. And it's the surgery, they're still pink from the recent surgeries. And I said, Tomas, why are you willing to risk your life for parrots? And he said, Doctora, everything is at risk, so I am willing to risk everything. If the parrots don't make it, neither do my people. He so succinctly put, in a wisdom that I'm still learning, is that there's freedom and being in solidarity with all of life, that I'm not going to have a good life, or this earth isn't, if I don't also work towards saving all of us, because we all matter. And he just really brought that home and was willing to risk, and still is risking his life for this. So he was really telling me that the health of one is the health of all. It's a very communitarian ethic in this regard. And so the people in the parrots that we've worked with, and inviting you, and maybe many of you all work with wildlife and work with parrots, I'm preacher to the choir here, is that we learn that no one is free until all are free. So when we help the parrots fly free, such as this release of a young juvenile parrot in Nicaragua, it helps us all be free. And that's how parrots and working for parrots, like in conservation, is a gateway towards freedom for all of us. And we also use the saying that no cage is big enough. It's a harsh example, saying, well, putting 4-year-old children in a cage is, it's like macaws. You don't want to put children in a cage. You don't want to be in a cage. And so no cage is big enough. So we got to get us all out, and we got to do this. And so another phrase that we have is unconditional solidarity, saying that, we have to find a way to stick together for the benefit of all of us. And so parrots is our symbol. Let's say the parrots are hurting, the people are hurting. So let's use parrots as a symbol to work together for a new life, a new earth, both individually and as collectively. This is a mural that we had commissioned to be painted in Honduras and Puerto Limpira. And it's showing a scarlet macaw that's made up of all various kinds of animals. And the idea here is you don't have to pick parrots as a gateway species. You can pick anything, but parrots are awful handy because their metaphor, their example helps us connect to how we want a good life for all beings and the people and the forest. It's sort of we say a bandera. They're a charismatic species that can help lead the way. So sum up, what is this process of paying attention to other animals? What is this idea of a gateway species? So the idea is to experience with your body the other species, move like them. You get rid of words, you can't fly, but just move like them, be with them, spend time with them, and just let your body experience, let thoughts go away and just be the animal. This is a wonderful way to connect to other beings and knowing what they're feeling and needing. And then try to be an objective observer instead of saying, oh, all snakes are bad because they scare me, or I don't know, all mosquitoes are bad because they cause so much disease. Is just sort of be there, be the mosquito. Be the parrot. And so these are some of the ways that you can do this work at home with whatever species you want to pick. And then remember, cognitive learning and knowledge is an important part of good life. So try to use a scientific approach to learn about them. Go read up about it. Go talk to people. Go check your assumptions. They could be off. and ask what are their needs as individuals and species. As you go learn about their physiology and behavior, what is it that they need? And then we asked, how do their needs intersect with others, with humans and the health of society? As I've showed out as how, it's interconnected, the well-being of all of us. And then finally, we want to act, and actions that transform, that give us the hope as we move towards a new way of being. And some of the actions can be anything that fosters community, justice, conservation, and connection. And we'll have a chance to talk about all of this, but what I'd like to do now is to just let us breathe. I'm not going to really talk anymore. I just want to end with this video that's a macaw meditation. It's a guided meditation about what is the life of a scarlet macaw like? What are they feeling and needing? And it's anthropomorphized. And I felt I needed to go to that extreme because they are feeling and needing some ways very similar to us with their families. They have names for their chicks. So I'm going to, hopefully this will work. It's about 8 minutes. And then after that finishes, we'll come back and have a conversation. And if for some reason the video is not working on your end, just hang out and come back, because we do want to hear from you and we do want to ask questions. So I'm going to go ahead and try this. And Gail, just let me know if it's not working. You never tire of the view from where you perch. Barely tilting your head, you look up into the night sky. The streak of the Milky Way flows in the direction you will go in the early light, but that is still some hours off. You have some itch in your feathers and on your skin, but you do not reach down to preen them, for it is the quiet time, when you move as little as possible. Though you are one of the largest parrots in the world, a scarlet macaw, and not many hunters could take you without some risk to themselves, your parents taught you to be still in the night, for there are always eyes watching you, wanting you. You may not be able to see them, but they can see you. You have grown out of your chick fear at last, but it is not for yourself that you remain vigilant. It is for your mate and 2 feathering children in the cavity several feet below your night perch. You are the sole watcher in this time of nesting, when couples move away from each other to raise their young. Those you protect are counting on you to keep watch, for if danger should come, they would be trapped in their tree cavity home. You can still rest, because only 1/2 of your brain sleeps at a time, while the other half remains alert. With your foot tendon locking mechanism, you expend no energy to perch, so you are both watchful and restful. You tilt your head to the other side as a soft wind tussles your feathers. In the far distance, you see the white sliver flying slowly up out of the tops of the tree branches. You breathe deep, glad of the company of this familiar friend, for it means that brighter light and warmth is not far away with the coming day. You wish your mate was here with you, so that you could lean into her, mixing her smell with that of the 1,000 flowers adorning the many trees around you. One more growing and shrinking of the white sliver, and then your children will be out of the cavity, and you can watch the dancing of the white starbirds together through the long, dark hours. Content with the memory of children long gone, and the bright future for these 2 current youngsters, your eyelids droop, and soon you are asleep, and then into dream time. Your feathers fluff as images of rich seeds and bright flowers slowly move across your consciousness, and then you have a flash of a memory from decades before, when you were the age of your current chicks. You had no siblings, for one had died in the egg, and another had been taken horrifyingly in front of you by a forest falcon. Your mother and father had been out foraging for you both, and had been gone when that fierce death had come. You can still remember your mother's cries when she came to the nest and found her youngest gone, and how both parents had growled at the slightest provocation for several days afterwards. The dream turned darker, for now you recall your mother's solitary moans when your father failed to return one afternoon. You were hungry, but there was no food in Mother's crop, for Father had not come. You began to cry, and Mother covered you with her wings as she had when you were egg fresh. But the hunger and fear lingered throughout the night and into the many weeks afterwards. Your wings flick as the moon rises, acting out a chick's begging behavior, and you jerk awake. You see now that the sky is lighter, though your heart is heavier than before the dream. Mother never knew what had happened to Father, but when he had gotten older, she had said that she suspected it was the two-legged one. Sometimes they climbed high into the trees and set sticky vine traps to take parrots from their homes and families. You shake your whole body with the sound of rushing feathers brushing against one another, trying to rid yourself of any lingering fear and loss. Forest falcons and two-leggeds had to be watched carefully, for they would take what was yours and leave you with a torn heart. But not today, you promise yourself and your family as you bow your head to the brighter light gathering below the moon. You hear a soft cluck from the nest home, for your mate has heard your feathers shaking. You call back, ever so soft, only for her and the chicks. You then hear a bustle of feathers, and there, oh, so darkly red and wondrous, you see your beloved come out of the cavity and walk towards you. You step towards her as well, and then comes the most pleasurable beginning of any day. You bury your beak in her neck feathers and hers in yours, fluffing your feathers in delight. It's as if your two bodies have become one, beaks moving over feathers entwined, the mutual preening itself a promise of commitment and care. The sun's flight is now more visible, and then with a playful nip at your mate, both your feathers sleek, and then still as if one, you jump off the branch and fall into the river gorge. It takes a few beats, but soon you are flying wingtip to wingtip. You can feel the air move with every wing flap of hers, and it is as if you were still touching one another, still preening. This flying with a mate is ecstasy, and you give voice to it with a loud call that sounds far over the flowing forest. Your mate joins you, and you know that many other living beings can hear you, and that knowing wraps you in a web of belonging, power, and purpose. You now fly quiet, for there is a long flight and day ahead of you. The two chicks now eat more than they will as adults, so quickly are they growing, and the flowering trees you favor are some distance away. They used to be closer, but the two-leggeds have been violent to this area. You wonder if this will be the last season you can use this nest home. Perhaps this is what the hard dream time was telling you. Time to go with the new family, as far as one can go, just so it wouldn't be your last family. The sun is now quite warm and high above the trees when you return to nest home, your crop bulging and your heart beating hard, not just from the flight, but from the strong purpose to give of yourself so life could come from life. You land high in the tree and your mate a bit lower. She slowly moves towards the cavity while you both look carefully around to see if there might be danger. Seeing none, she slips silently into the cavity. It is a large space, so you soon follow, calling the name of each chick in turn as you enter. They call out your given name in between gulping breakfast down from their mother, and then it is your turn. It is like all burdens have lightened as you empty your crop into theirs. So great is the satisfaction to care for these two. You climb up to the entrance, keeping watch while you hear murmurs and clucks below you. You imagine your chicks bowing their heads and holding their wings out as Mother nibbles on the many sheath-enclosed feathers. helping them to break free so that the feathers can grow. The children follow their mother's lead, returning the nibbling to each other, to their mother, and to every piece of chewed wood around them. Unable to resist this preen ball of love beneath you, you back down and offer your beak and body to the other three. Then you are struck by a vision, as if a dream. One day soon, the four of you will be flying wing to wing, and others of your kind will join you as in the olden days. Your flock line stretching from nearly suns rising to suns falling, an extension of the living, breathing forest beneath you. And once again, you recall your mother's words. No matter the grief and loss, never give up on the power of love. So again, just want to thank you all for being here. We have tons of information and resources on the website. Please visit us. And the idea is that I hope during this time together that you've been nurtured, and whether you nurture yourself or the earth or another species, you're nurturing all of us. So thank you for doing that good work and for being here today.